One day, when all of us living today are long gone and the world has advanced and evolved to a state we would find completely unrecognizable, what will far future generations know about us in the 21st century? Even if we are able to dodge all existential threats to our civilization and evolve into a Star Trek level of prosperity, how will archaeologists and historians, hundreds or thousands of years in the future, piece together the history of the present? This video is brought to you by Squarespace. The people we now call the Vikings dominated the north of Europe for over 300 years, and have arguably one of the most impressive legacies on the continent. Expanding from their native homelands in Scandinavia, they raided towns and monasteries, founded new cities, discovered new lands, and became the first Europeans to land on and settle parts of North America. However, the conception many of us might have today about them depict violent, bloodthirsty, ultra-tough warriors with horned helmets. This was through no fault of their own, but rather the fact that the people they often attacked were also the people who would have written about them most, describing the heathenous brutes raiding and pillaging their towns and monasteries. Not until the 1890s did academic scholars outside Scandinavia start to rethink this conception, one that still persists in pop culture to this day. The horned helmet myth likely started in 1876 with costume designer KhAnubis, who created the horned helmets for the first Bayreuth Festival production of Richard Wagner's Der Ring des Nibelungen. Okay, I think that's enough flexing my German for now. Wagner's plays led a sort of romanticized revival of Viking history and traditions in pop culture, and maybe a little bit beyond just pop culture, even though there is no evidence whatsoever that anyone in the Viking Age used horned helmets. Ceremonial horned helmets have been found in Scandinavian ruins dating back to the Bronze Age, and on coats of arms in the High Middle Ages, but it's more likely Depla just thought they looked cool as part of costume. What I'm getting at here is that a large part of our mistakes and misconceptions about the past, sometimes not even the very distant past, come from deeply biased accounts which are often expanded upon by pop culture, which, as we all know, has been dedicated purely to scientific and historical accuracy above all else. Thus, even if archaeologists and historians get it completely right, that doesn't mean you can count on the average layperson having the right idea. One civilization in particular that has attracted loads of interest from both historians and conspiracy theorists pretending to be historians alike would be that of ancient Egypt. Think of some of the most well-known artifacts and structures from ancient Egypt. The pyramids, the treasures of the pharaohs, the artwork on the tomb walls, all stuff relating to death and the afterlife. This might perhaps give the impression of the Egyptians being obsessed with death, but the reason the tombs of the pharaohs in particular last so long as to serve as a window to this ancient past is precisely because they were meant to be left alone, forever, which by sheer coincidence happens to be how long death usually lasts. The pyramids served this purpose too, but we're just more showy about it. On the surface, Egyptian cities and temples and monuments were subject to weather patterns, migrations, vandalism, being conquered by a crap ton of different empires, and of course, people still using and modifying them. We have a habit of dividing history into neat little boxes and chapters, when in reality, of course, it's all a constant continuous flow. Egypt didn't disappear and get replaced with a newer version of itself overnight, but underwent a vast evolution as it was conquered by the Persians, Macedonians, Romans, Islamic Caliphates, Mamluks, Ottomans, British, and finally became independent. But deep underground, the ancient tombs lay undisturbed from all the ruckus above, almost like accidental time capsules. What this is all pointing to is that while our non-ruined cities will continue to change and evolve, what might be best preserved are the things we just leave behind and forget about. Today's tragic shipwreck is tomorrow's archaeological breakthrough. Okay, maybe don't quote me on that. Thus, one perhaps surprisingly accurate time capsule of a civilization would be its trash. Lost treasures of once great kings are cool and all, but if you want to truly understand a civilization and how its people lived, you can look no further than their trash heaps, or middens as they're more respectfully known. Studying the contents of these middens can help us better understand daily life in long-lost cultures, especially the parts they wouldn't have been so enthusiastic about writing down. Obviously, human waste can reveal a lot about people's diets, But so can things like empty amphorae, revealing just how much the Romans loved olive oil, or chicken bones found in Israel showing evidence of cutting knives, and middens like the 2,000-year-old junk papyri found in Oxyrhynchus in Egypt, sometimes described as the Library of Alexandria in a landfill, can show us the parts outside of people's digestive tracts. No surprise, our 21st century civilization disposes of a lot of plastics, glass, paper, food packaging, computer waste, and other waste products, which will one day show future archaeologists bits and pieces of our society that they might not find in formal historical records. That's not a valid excuse to now reduce how much you throw away though. These future archaeologists still need a habitable Earth to live on, even if we do successfully expand into the stars. But we have something our ancestors never had: the internet. With this tool, any piece of information can be digitized and sent worldwide, where they can be stored on a network of computers. So if the computer that made it is destroyed, the files can still remain intact. However, will modern digital records truly be preserved? Even if, as a reminder, nothing cataclysmic happens and all our records are preserved as best we truly can? We learn about the present and the future by understanding the past, and understanding how we study the past today can help our descendants better understand us in the present. One of my favorite books, especially considering the subject at hand, is of course Motel of the Mysteries. It is set in the year 4022, after amateur archaeologist Howard Carson falls into a long buried tomb. In this tomb, he finds a treasure trove of artifacts unveiling the secrets of the once great land of USA. With the site dating to 1985, Carson is able to uncover ancient artifacts such as the sacred urn, the sacred collar and jewelry, and 2 human bodies, one of which lies in a kind of porcelain sarcophagus, and the other on a kind of ceremonial bed. However, you, dear viewer from before Y4K, know just how comically inaccurate this toilet humor really is. We have plenty of stories and records and artifacts from ancient civilizations, but even then, we still have a lot of gaps in perfectly understanding their cultures. Egyptian, for instance, used to be a widely spoken language, but nowadays we needed a special stone to help us actually decipher what they were writing about. Is this how we're going to be remembered? Probably not, but our technological records aren't necessarily going to help all that much. As technology improves, we are all archiving our lives with more and more detail. 200 years ago, only the most important in society were remembered in more than just the memory of their children. Nowadays, I can take a look at the breakfast someone I've never even met had in 2003. But even if we make sure to keep our records stable and our descendants know how to speak our languages, technology can become obsolete, unreadable. I mean, if you have a record of what happened on an actual vinyl record, sure, that's great, but there's no record player app on an iPhone. It's also entirely possible that our digital records are preserved into the far future, perhaps via the internet, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll get everything right. For instance, we have heaps of records from ancient Egypt, but if popular opinion today still dictates that they were obsessed with death, what's to keep our descendants from assuming that we in the 21st century were obsessed with satellites and nuclear power? In 2,000 years, London may look as different from modern London as modern London looks from Roman London, assuming it isn't abandoned entirely. All the while, the Onkalo spent nuclear fuel repository in Finland will remain, hopefully, long forgotten. The reason we might have these such misconceptions about our ancestors is often due to a lack of written records, whether it be due to them being destroyed or languages being forgotten, or as Vsauce to an extent pointed out, apathy. And even if we do manage to preserve everything about us and keep our digital archives and the internet up to date and safe from malicious regimes and solar flares, future archaeologists and anthropologists are still going to have to make a lot of assumptions. On timescales of thousands of years, there are just too many variables to address. And that's not even considering the possibility of catastrophes like the Bronze Age collapse or the fall of the Roman Empire or the burn in Star Trek Discovery. In Motel of the Mysteries, for instance, North America is completely destroyed and buried during a catastrophe in the 1980s, meaning the flow of information from 20th century USA isn't continuous. I could keep theorizing about this stuff for hours, and by all means feel free to bring up any points I didn't bring up in the comments, or, the KhAnubis Discord server, but at the end of the day, this is all just guesswork based on how well we know the civilizations that are ancient to us, and they didn't have anything like the internet, In fact, many of them were just getting the hang of this whole writing thing. By the way, Socrates, if you're watching by any chance, holy crap, you could not have been more wrong about writing. Seriously. But to know how we'll be remembered and studied by our distant descendants, we might as well just predict the future and how everything goes. For like, thousands of years. Although I have always found it kind of funny to imagine future archaeologists studying ancient archaeologists. Where am I? Why, you're in space! Wait, what's with all those squares floating around? Oh, I get it now. Now, if you want to make your mark on the digital archives that future generations might look through to study our culture, what better a way than making your very own website? I mean, surely KhAnubis can't be forgotten anytime soon. With Squarespace, it's almost hilariously easy to build a website, whether you run a YouTube channel or a travel agency or a restaurant or whatever. Squarespace has features that make it easy for businesses of virtually any category, even if you're just in it for the memes. You can embed videos, link your social media pages, start a blog, create interactive menus, assemble an online shop, all within the span of a few minutes. Squarespace makes it easy to build a website exactly how you want it to look, whether you're using the intuitive drag and drop panels, or you want to write every last bit of code to build a website. If you click on the link in the description or go to squarespace.com/KhAnubis and use the coupon code KhAnubis at checkout, you will get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. Yes, they register domains too, isn't that convenient?